Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck video. Today I'm going to be uploading a mystery tribal deck that I've been brewing up for a while. I know some people have actually asked what I was doing with my clone deck. One of my old Gwendlyn deck here, about a year ago I had a clone deck designed, and then I made a completely different mono blue clone deck. And those who remember that video remember me saying that Gwendlyn is another gifted card that I always keep as an active general. She's been active in a deck that's very slowly being constructed over a pretty long period of time. I started a collection a while ago looking to make this tribal deck happen. It's not a very good tribal deck, but it's a funny one, and it's a Grixis colored one. So let's just run through the general first, and then I will eventually break down and show you the 37 poor quality creatures that this deck runs. So Gwendlyn is a Grixis general. She's a red, black, black, blue, 4 mana for a 3/5 legend from Legends. That doesn't really suck. She's actually one of the few good ones, fairly playable. Her creature type is rogue, so you can do things like tribal rogue, and you can use the rogue equipment that gives her shroud. You actually don't normally want to attack with her. When you tap her, and you can do this on any time on your turn only, you make an opponent discard a card at random. Typical Gwendlyn decks are usually pretty low curve control decks, and you have some untap shenanigans like a Minimo or Maedry Stone. Things to untap her so you can essentially him to Torok someone with her. Pretty good 1v1. Her butt is pretty big for defense. Well, not that butt down here. Flavor wise, she's hilarious. I love the handcuffs card from Unhinged because it also has her flavor text as well. I chose her for this deck because this deck plays very odd. It's a tribal deck, mass creatures, 37 creatures, and it tries to just land creatures and swing. I needed some kind of defense. I couldn't have an expensive general to rely on. The curve on the deck is horrendous. This is currently still in its designing phase, so I'm entirely open to feedback if you have ideas to improve it. Thematically, I don't need any more thematic ideas. I need ideas to make it function better. So let's set Gwendlyn over here and let's introduce the tribe. This deck is tribal. Come here, yeah. Tribal Djinn, Djinn, the genies essentially. In Magic, there are two types of quote-unquote Djinns or genies. There's the Efreets, which is if you play like D&D, you know what those are, and then there's these guys, the Djinns. They are classically Grixis colored. There are two green and 2 white ones. The white ones are the newer ones, but out of those extra 4, then there are 37 other Djinns that we can run. So the classic colors that I felt this deck should have been is Grixis. This has been a very slow collection. Most of these are just dirt cheap and bad. If you guys are familiar with older expensive cards, you'll know one particular guy in here was just, he's not really worth running, but it's a collectible item. So let's get through these. Most Djinns have a very good power to toughness ratio with some attribute, but they typically have a backfire, something bad about them. That makes them very fun and entertaining to play. Fledgling Djinn is a good example here of a kind of an old Suicide Black attempt. 2 for 2/2 flyers, fantastic. But on my upkeep, she hits me for 1. I kind of put these in order of mana cost, but also the bad ones first, and then some of the newer ones. The newer ones are not bad. That's something I started on this before these even got printed. That color is terrible here. I am actually in a brand new apartment, so let me just scoot these out of the way. I have moved recently, and that's why I've been offline. I've actually been pretty sick as well. I'm pretty chuggy and sore in the throat, so I'm going to try not to cough all over the place here. But yeah, the old ones typically have a very bad detrimental effect. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are still playable. The new ones, although don't. Most of the new ones are actually fairly average. This one's one of the pretty good ones. This is the only counterspell in the entire deck. It's kind of like a negate effect where I can only hit instances or sorceries as a megamorphed creature. 2 for 2/1 flying is almost strictly better than this for all the extra effects that he gives me. We have Old Man of the Sea. This is a rotted subtype. He's no longer married. He is a Djinn. This is one of the exceptionally good cards. He's 3 mana for 2/3. I can tap to gain control of one of the opponent's creatures as long as I think it was the number of islands I control. Let's see here. No, it's his power. So it's going to be 2 or less unless I have a lowered effect out. This is just a slightly expensive card. It's really funny. It's just some old man with a shiv stick thing going after a dude, but one of the just more entertaining cards the deck has. There's a lot of them here. For example, here's a 3 for 4/4 flying. When it enters the battlefield, all of my opponents may draw up to 3 cards. Really bad, but in EDH, this is what the deck is attempting to do. Again, the deck plays mostly political shenanigans to try to survive. The irony is, since the creatures themselves are fairly low costed for the power and toughness that most of them have, I can actually usually aggro someone out pretty fast. Although I am usually pacing myself too. Some of the genies hurt me just equally as bad. Mijae, I can't pronounce half of these. He may attack or he may not attack. 3, 4, 6, 3 again is a very nice power toughness ratio to mana cost, but he's not always going to attack. Vaporous Djinn is one that has to phase out unless I pay. 4 for 3/4 flyer is okay. Lotus Path Djinn is 4 for a 2/3 prowess flying. Again, flying in the air is pretty good on this guy. We have a Mistfire Weaver with a little bit of a morph. This one's nice to protect something, although most of my creatures, and like the majority of these, are just not worth really protecting. We have the Loremaster, which is really good at returning a few of my good spells. I will typically try to recur. The way I had to make this deck work is plugging as many good stuff effects as I could. I chose to run every Djinn that I legally could in these collars, and a few of the flavorful cards, but I had to include a lot of as quote-unquote good stuff things as I could to make it function. So, like recurring insight, some mass draw or mass removal, whatever I can recur with this guy. He's usually going to stay flipped down. 6 mana for a morph sucks, but I mean, it's really what I have to work with. Serendib is another example of a Djinn with a pretty bad upkeep. There is a Djinn where I can donate Djinns, but of course people, if they don't sacrifice, he himself, some do give me the effect where I can sack the Djinn, some don't. This one does not actually give me the effect to sacrifice the Djinn if I don't want to sack a land. So I could donate him to somebody, although 4, 4, 5, 6 flyer is actually really good. In multiplayer, where I typically play this, or I have so far, these with a really bad upkeep effect, I usually try to throw it as a chump blocker when I know the board's about to get wiped, or if someone is going to attack me, because I really don't want to sack my lands. Here's another phasing, 4, 4, 4, 4 flying with phasing, so every other turn I can attack with it. Here's another one with a bad upkeep where I can either bounce a land or destroy the Djinn, and it cannot be regenerated. Bury is the old destroy, cannot be regenerated phase. Again, this is something I normally would throw out if I need a chump blocker, if I know the board is going to get wiped, because I'll just sack it on my upkeep instead of bouncing things. Emberwilde, this one's really fun because he does not have haste. He's 4, 4, 5, 4 flying, really good. On each player's upkeep, they may pay 2 red or 2 life to gain control. Since he does not have haste, no one can actually attack with this if everyone keeps gaining control of it. And that's hilarious. Here's the dollar bill of the deck. It's a Juzam. I remember when I was a kid, I used to have a handful of these. They were not nearly as expensive as they are now. This one's in actually really good condition. It took me about, I would say 6 months to find someone I was willing to trade with that I felt I could trust. And even after trading with them, I still don't. Like, I essentially went over every test I could with this card because the quality of the card scared me. I thought it was just too good and too pristine. Like, every single fake test I could, I went over this, just about almost willing to rip it a little bit to look inside, but I didn't go that far. But this is like the Phyrexian Negator, or Phyrexian, well, I guess that's a Phyrexian Obliterator of the day, or the Abyssal Persecutor of the day, or the Desolation or Desecration Demon of the day. 4, 4, 5, 5 is fantastic at the time. This was a nasty beat stick. He is excessively expensive, not because he's good. He's no longer considered good. But he's excessively expensive because he's on a lot of magazine covers and artwork of the time and paraphernalia. It's one of the iconic pictures of Magic. In this deck, he is a beat stick. Benthic, I can't pronounce half these, is actually a pretty good one. 5/3 Island Walk. Blue is the most common color in EDH. 2 life on upkeep and 40 life I don't really care about, so this is a nice, pretty good Djinn actually. This is a pretty bad Djinn. 4, 4, 4, 4. This is actually one of my most favorite ones to play because it does make some really awkward situations in 1v1. It has to attack every turn. 4, 4, 4, 4 flying trample is really good. Has attack, that's okay for the attributes, but for every damage it deals, it also makes me lose that much life. And I have some pump effects in here. So dealing 4 damage, trading 4 back and forth sounds funny. I do have one thing of lifelink in here. There is a bribery in here. So last time I played this in a multiplayer table, I was actually killing myself way faster than I could control because of this. And I had some pump effects out. I had to end up bribering for someone's Angelic Skirmisher to give myself lifelink, when there's way better targets, because I was down to 2 life and I was about to kill myself on the same turn because this had to attack. Funny, not good, I wouldn't advise it, but this is hilarious. Soulblade Djinn is the newest Djinn printed to date. I don't know why they put this in Ordnance, but they did. It's just a 5 for 5/3, and it is a pseudo prowess for my entire team. Djinn of Wishes is a more common one people may have guessed was in here. 4 mana to possibly get some benefit off the top of my deck. Pretty good card. Whirlwind Adept is a nice hexproof 4/2 that tends to get a little bit bigger. A shame there's no evasion to help get it through. There is a Necroma's Memorial to help it fly, but past that it's going to be a 4 to 5 power beat stick. Stormcloud Djinn is a really bad fire-breathing Djinn. Again, it hits me a little bit. Paying 2 to give it +2 and 0 is nice flavor for the mana cost. It can only block flyers. It's a fairly average Djinn. Silumgar Butcher is pretty weird. I mean, I don't mind sacrificing some of my own Djinns, because some of them are just pretty bad. So he gives me a semi, it's not quite the, what was the Black Phyrexian guy that gave -3/-3 counters? He's not that good, but again, it's a 3/3 zombie Djinn, and the flavor here is pretty cool. I like the art on this guy. Aku Djinn is another fairly funny one. Trample on a 5/6 body for 5 mana is great. The upkeep effect is pretty situational. This actually ended up locking out a friend's Machias then Hollow deck unintentionally because he couldn't combo with his sacrifice engines. He eventually got me with a Triskelion, but in the end, he literally just, I locked him out for so long because of this silly thing. It's just a giant thing for beater. It's just really funny. This is the kind of play card that makes people not want to board wipe, which is kind of interestingly awkward. It just makes for really odd plays at times. Kokus, I do not have the Fun Goblin to go with him to keep him at bay, so he will typically, he's always going to bolt me. And then the fire breathing is decent. This is a 3-color deck, and I'm going to rattle on about my lands here when I get to them. So the fire breathing is not super good, but the 3/5 trample, still pretty nice. We have another flying prowess. This is a nice one that's 5 or 6 mana for 4/5, fairly average. Djinn of Infinite Deceits is one of the better cards in the deck because I can donate some of my garbage Djinns away for a better creature. Cloud Djinn is just as vanilla as a Djinn can get. 6 for 5/4 flying, can only block flying. Is actually pretty low quality when it comes to the converted mana cost and mana ratio there, and power toughness. Mahamoti, I can't pronounce this. This is one of the classically, this is the Djinn from the original Whatnot sets. I have the a foil 10th, I think, edition one sitting over there. I actually like this artwork better. The flavor text is also makes me happy that this same text has been used on every single one. I have this one in here because I'm thinking about using the other one as a box cover. I don't know. I do like the 10th edition artwork probably a little bit more than this one. I don't know. I may switch them out. Drifting Djinn cycles, so I don't have to deal with a random upkeep. Although, I mean, it could be a creature if it could be. There is some reanimation in this deck, so the cycling is actually really good. Sage-Eye is another prowess, and he does have the potential to bounce. It's the thing. There are the 3 Djinns from the invasion block that determine their power and toughness is determined by the number of permanents in play that match essentially the commonness of that color. This is also where there's a green and a white one from the same block, but each one has an ability that's specific or unique, not unique, it's common per that color. They're all 6 mana, so we have 6 for 5/6 flying, who may have -2/-2. The black one is Regenerate. He's a 5/5. The red one is Haste, and he's a 6/5, or her. These are all interesting. It's, again, a nice thing to show random old stuff that just... This is a techie thing that happened in the Invasion block when you see things like Sabo's Assassin, and this is something that is not played anymore. Like this type of design. I don't think I've seen anything like this for a long time. Djinn Illuminatus allows me to copy some of my spells since he gives everything I cast replicate. That's an instant or sorcery. 7 mana is really high, but I mean, it's a thing. Djinn of the Lamp is a vanilla 5/6 flyer. And Maelstrom Djinn is essentially a vanilla one. I don't really like morphing this out unless I plan on reanimating or I know a board wipe's going to happen, because that 5/6 body for 3, this could be swinging turn 4 as a 5/6. That's actually pretty good. And then the last Djinn is the expensive Djinn. 8 mana, everyone knows this one from some combo and Talrand decks. It's 8 mana for 5/5 flying, that's great, but whenever you cast anything, I can bounce any permanent, including lands. So in 1v1, if this comes out early somehow, it usually makes a pretty nasty lock. 37, I think, Djinns. Yeah, that's the tribe. Let's go on to the spells. There's a few other thematic cards in here, but this is where I'm looking to work on the deck. I need to make it more functional. We have a rebound spell. This is new. It gives me a 2/2 Djinn token on my turn I cast it, and then another one on the upkeep when it rebounds. Then we have a lot of bounce to keep myself alive. We have a Rift, an Evacuation, a Aether Spouts. Again, this is a card I don't see a lot of people playing in EDH. If you play EDH and you tend to get someone going aggro, this will essentially just set them back terribly. We have lots of draw and envisions. A 3 Wishes, it's a thematic card. This is an instant version of a new card that was printed recently called Act on Impulse, which is 2 and a red for a sorcery version. And this one gives me access to the cards on the turn I cast it up to my upkeep. The Act on Impulse gives me a full turn. This one's a little bit better because it is an instant, and well, I guess they're both a little unique. This one, I do get to keep the cards face down, and since it gives me up to my upkeep, if I have some other instant speed stuff, like a Fact or Fiction, I can still make use of it. Thematically, it's there for draw. There's not a lot of thematic stuff that was powerful enough to keep the deck, or to keep in the deck. Like, you would think things like Aladdin's Ring, or Lamp, or Ring of 3 Wishes would have been in here. Not really fast enough for what this deck needs. But we do have the Fact, or the Steam Augury for instant speed draw, Recurring Insight for big draw, and a Grixis Charm is a filler. This will most likely be some other utility card. I'm thinking about putting a Damnation or a Decree of Pain in here. Arc Bond is an instant speed possible board wipe. I have a lot of creatures. I don't really care if my creatures die because most of them do bad things to me. So this is really good for combat shenanigans and a possible instant speed board wipe. Curse of the Swine is a sorcery X exile. Toxic Deluge is the cheapest board wipe I could fit in here. Exsanguinate is actually going to come out. This is again another placeholder. There was a Coffers in here earlier, and I took that out already since I'm messing around with my lands a lot. Bribery is for me to wish something out of the opponent's deck. This ends up being like whatever I can to survive with, really. Rite of Replication is a better win condition than what I have. Making 6 Tidespout Tyrants is a disgusting win condition itself. But that is, yeah. This will usually target someone else's creature. Rise of the Dark Realms is the last spell of the deck for mass reanimation because it is a generic win condition itself. There is a few enchantments in the deck. We have a Phyrexian Arena for more draw. There may be a Greed coming in here soon. Whip of Erebos is here to give me some lifelink and a little bit of reanimation. The lifelink is much more important though, since most of my Djinns, I think 4 or 5, no, there's at least 5 or 6 of them that actually hurt me. Then we have a Skywise Teachings. There's not a lot of non-creature spells in here, but this still does very slowly produce Djinn tokens over a long period of time. There's a handful of artifacts, not a lot. This is, again, something that needs some work. Like this, I've had the collection of Djinns for a while, but these extra cards I haven't put a lot of thought or effort into yet. I need more ramp. Essentially, I need either more lands or more ramp, or a little bit of both. I'm only running 2 ramps right now. We have a Soul Ring and a Spectral Searchlight for political shenanigans. I will end up putting a Bauble, Thron Dynamo, Guild of Lotus, a lot of stuff in here eventually just to make it go better. Maybe even the diamonds. A Bottle of Suleiman. If you are unfamiliar with the Visions, Arabian Nights, and whatnot cycle, there's a legendary creature. He's mono white, I believe. His name is King Suleiman. He hates Djinns. There's also a red-white enchantment that hates Djinns. This is a bottle that is with his theme. What this does is I can flip a coin, sack it, and I can either lava axe myself in the face, or I can get a 5/5 artifact Djinn token. I'm actually working on a custom Djinn token. The artwork for that is going to be the other Bottle of Solomon artwork, which is a Djinn coming out of a lamp over here. The body of the token is going to be a foil Stratodon from a plane shift, I believe, because it is an artifact creature that is a 5/5. And then there's a flavor text box I'm going to snag from a Portal. There's some green sprites from Portal, Third Kingdom. It's been printed a lot. It's a flying, but it has a flavor text from William Shakespeare alike. So I'm going to make that token, and that'll go with this. Then we have Door of Destinies for generic pumps, Obelisk of Erd for some more generic pumps, and a Necroma's Memorial for essentially the better way of actually getting my creatures to do something effective other than hurting me. I may end up putting a coat of arms in here. From what I've played, I usually can't get more than 4 or 5 Djinns on the table before some wraths or I kill myself. So I don't know if that's actually a good idea. But let's go on to the lands. This land package is an experiment. Currently, I am running the 2 new lag lands, the quote-unquote Tango lands, or whatever people are calling them. I will eventually get the 3rd one, and then after I get the 3rd one and playtest this for a lot, I'm going to change my land base around. My idea is to see if running a smaller number of basics compared to a higher number of basics in comparison to the chance of coming into play tapped on a range of turns from turn 3 and up, how effective that is. So we have Reliquary Tower for hopefully keeping my hand, Temple of the False God. I don't have an Ancient Tomb in here. I had the Coffers, but I took it out since, again, this is not a big X-Spell deck. And I really can't make myself look like a target, otherwise I'm just going to die really way too fast in this deck. 3-color land and a 3-color land. We do have the 3 fetches in here. And we have the 3 shocks in here. And then we have the 3 filters. Come on. 3 buddies. And here's the 2 new ones. Again, I would be rather upset if development didn't make the enemy colored lag lands or tango lands, whatever these are called. I don't really care what people are arguing about what they're called. All I care about is that I want them to make a blue-red one. Here's my current opinion on these. In the hierarchy of optimization when it comes to these lands, in a 3-color deck, obviously the best is ABU duels, and then shocks, and then fetches. Because 3 of each, duel, shock, and then the 9 fetches, is the optimal mana base for any 3-color deck. Below that, I would consider a filter land better, and then the maybe lands that consider like the Dragon Skull Summit. And then below that, you start having other things like pain lands. And below a pain land is currently where I would consider these if you already have the 9 fetches, the 3 ABU duels, the 3 shocks. The problem is, as you're seeing, I'm not playing 9 fetches. I only play, I am Vain, and that is not an optimal play. I am Vain. I'm only playing the 3 on-color fetches here. I'm also playing other things too, like there's just more stuff coming up. So currently, I have, I think, only 12 basic lands in this deck. What I plan on doing is removing, well, I also have these guys. I may end up removing these. I'll get there in a second. I want to go to 16 basics, and I want to see how well these pan out. But I need to get the 3rd one to make the testing commence, really. Because I like pain lands, but these are fetchable. There's a huge argument here regarding, like, if you are playing green, because you could ramp more, so you obviously would have more basics, compared to if you're running black or blue, so you would draw more, so you would draw into the lands you need to help fix. What I would like is to maybe, if I can get away with maybe removing either the filters or the buddy lands, and I may even break down and get more fetches. I don't think I could get more fetches, but I like the idea of increasing the basic land count and seeing if I can play with that enough to make these come into play tapped consistently. And that's going to be a far-fetched testing thing, because again, I need the 3rd one to make it happen. It's going to be a long-range test. I know mathematically I could sit there and design some kind of algorithm, but that's just not really likely to happen because I'm not mathematically inclined. But it's just going to be some testing. Now these on here, the legendary Shizo and Shinka and whatnot, these are in here because, again, I may switch the general around to something better along. The important one, although, is Minimo. With Minimo, I can make Gwendlyn untap. So I can use Minimo to essentially him to Torok someone with my general. And that's something you need to be really careful of in multiplayer, which this deck is played in. Here are the pain lands. These are the ones I am considering removing first for more basics. No, I take that back. These guys are way gone. Even though I know they're going to eventually make a blue-red creature land, I plan on taking these out first. These are going to become basics, and then maybe the pain lands will become basics. And then since then, we just have the rest of our basics. There's no mountains in this. I'm actually also pretty unhappy. Like, I'm glad that full arts got reprinted in Return or Battle of Zendikar here. The problem is, as a hipster myself, I don't like the fact that these are just now super common against everybody. So I'm going to change the artwork of basic lands that this deck runs. I'm thinking about maybe visiting. I have a whole bunch of the Odyssey foil lands, and some of those look a little dreamy, so they may be somewhat on theme for Djinns. I don't really know if there's any Djinn themed lands really, but I'm going for the older style bordered lands because I like the older style Djinns. But yeah, these are the lands that I'm currently testing. I will eventually remove creature lands and pain lands and up my basic land count. And we'll see how those Tango quote-unquote lands pan out. And I don't really know what the actual term people are using on those. I know the phrase Tango is only for like I guess Western culture, because other parts of the world the word Tango doesn't make sense for what the lands do. Because like in Germany it would be called Waltz land, and that doesn't make any sense. For now I'm just going to call them lag lands because there's a high chance we'll come into play tapped. In a 2-color deck they are fantastic. In a 3-color deck in EDH, their hierarchy is not super, I just don't think they're good enough. Might as well be playing a guild gate in most cases if you already have access to all the other better dual lands. But they are fetchable. So there's a lot of arguments to be made of their quality. It really depends on what your deck is doing. I don't know. But yeah, this is my Djinn tribal deck, my genies. A lot of people have been after my trade binder for a while, and they keep flipping to the back, and I have to keep smacking people's hands away to get them away from my genies. Now that they're all sleeved up, I can actually let people look at my trade binder with ease. If you have any suggestions to improve the quality of the deck, let me know. I'm not after theme anymore. Thematically, I know all I could add. I've been after or researching this deck for a while. I am after functionality. So I need ramp in the deck, I know. I'm probably going to add one more land, so I go to 38 lands. Power-wise, yeah, there's not enough, even in odd versions, to make haste outlets like Ashling's Prerogative functional. I may do that Shared Hymnosity. I don't know. The deck does just turn sideways in the red zone. There's really no tricks to it other than like random copy effect, random reanimation. Gwendlyn herself is a very generic filler here, but I can't think of a better Grixis general that fits this theme. Like, there just isn't really any genie or Djinn flavored generals right now past King Solomon himself, and that's not what this deck needing to do. I don't really want to destroy my own Djinns. Well, sometimes I need to. But yeah, this is my Djinn deck, and any ideas, definitely let me know. Again, I've been resettling into my new, well, I'm not quite in my apartment, I'm living with someone now. So I'm going to try to improve and show more videos now that I have more reliable access to better lighting. I know I've also promised gameplay footage coming up again. We do have a few videos to upload, and I'll get around to that eventually, now that I also have more reliable Wi-Fi. But thanks. Any ideas, always welcome, and I'll talk to you guys later.